and hello everyone. My name is Jonathon Dornbush, and this is Podcast Beyond, episode 648 of IGN's weekly PlayStation show. I'm joined this week by IGN's resident, I can't talk anymore, elderly Irish woman, Lucy O'Brien.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Lucy. Glad to have you on.
It's a pleasure.
And we're also joined this week by two special guests. We have Blessing Adeoye Jr. from Kinda Funny.
Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Blessing. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been an interesting few months and an interesting week, but all things considered, I'm doing pretty decent. I just had some really good barbecue pork, what was it, fried pork? No, barbecue pork on fried rice. That's what it was. Very good. Yeah, it was very, very good.
Nice. I think we should just spend the episode honestly talking about everyone's lunches because that'll help.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
We're also joined this week by Funké Joseph.
Hey, hello. What's up, gamers? I'm doing okay. Yeah, as Blessing said, it's been a crazy little while, but let's talk about some games.
Yeah,
video games.
Glad to have you both here. I do want to, for the audience at home who doesn't maybe know either of your works, I want to jump in just to give a little bit of people some context with your PlayStation history and everything. So, Blessing, why don't we start off with you? Give me just a little bit of, maybe a favorite PS4 game, maybe exclusive or multi-platform.
Man.
What you're up to. Right off the bat.
And go.
Favorite PlayStation game of all time might actually be Shadow of the Colossus, right off the top of the dome. That was like the game that, and I feel like I've told the story like a billion times whenever people like talk about like my pivotal moments in like gaming. Shadow of the Colossus was like the game I played where I played that and Metal Gear Solid 3 in the same week. And actually, now that I think about it, if you count Metal Gear Solid 3 in that, Metal Gear Solid 3 might actually be my favorite PlayStation game. But in the conversation of games that kind of molded me as a gamer, right? Like Metal Gear Solid 3 was the game that opened my eyes to what video game storytelling can be and what like connecting to characters can be like in a story and actually like being engrossed and like involved in a game story could be. And then Shadow of Colossus is the game that kind of opened my eyes up to video games as a beautiful work of art, right? When you look at the visuals of that game, when you look at the art style, when you look at the story told there, and then you also look at the soundtrack and all the different elements of it and the game design of it, like that was the game that for me I played when I was young, and I was like, dude, games are amazing. And so like those would be my favorite PlayStation games. Of course, so for people who don't know me, my name is Blessing Adeoye. I'm a part of Kinda Funny. I host Kinda Funny Games Daily, quite a few days out the week. And I'm also on PS Love You XOXO, which is our PlayStation podcast, which is hosted by Greg Miller, who may or may not have been on the show quite a few times.
Heard of him.
never heard of him.
No.
And we talk about PlayStation on our show too. And that's about it about me.
Did you play the Shadow of the Colossus remake? And if you did, what did you think of that?
I did play it. I absolutely adored it. I actually talked about it recently on one of our shows because I've been thinking about it and I want to play it again because when I played the, I believe it was 2018, when I played the 2018 Shadow of the Colossus, I kind of just like beat it in a day because it's one of those things where when you know all the solutions to Shadow of the Colossus, to all the solutions to beat all the bosses, you can get through that game in like 4 to 5 hours. And so I beat it in pretty much one sitting. Yeah, it's like it's a very short game.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, like especially if you know what you're doing, it's a very short game. If you don't know what you're doing, it might be like closer to 8 hours. But I pretty much like zoomed through that game and beat it and kind of forgot about it. And like as time has gone on, I've been thinking about it more and more, and I'm like, man, for what is one of my favorite games of all time in the original Shadow of the Colossus, I played the revamp pretty quickly and didn't really savor it as much as I think I should have, especially given that I think back to that remake and I think about specifically Avion, the fifth Colossus, which is like the flying Colossus, the one that flies over the water. And I think about how much of a beautiful experience that was in the remake specifically and how well they captured that in terms of not only the size of the Colossus, but the speed and like the feeling of like wind gusting as you're flying on top of it. Like, that the remake is incredible. But it's one of those ones where I want to go back and play it again so I can truly appreciate it better than I did when I first played it.
Blessing, you speak so well about video games. It just reminds me of this. I've been meaning to bring this up with you for a while. Mm-hmm. I was out drinking with Greg a little before it was announced that you were going to come on board. Kind of funny.
Like a couple weeks before.
Right. And I remember like we were being kind of in that like, let's be real with each other. Like we've had a few drinks, like we're, you know, sort of like chatting about like how we really feel about life. And I remember he said he pointed to you. You were on the balcony, and he pointed to you and he said, "This guy is going to be huge." And I remember, so vividly him saying that. And then a couple of weeks later, it was announced that you were coming on board to Kind of Funny. And
oh my god,
you know, whenever I've heard you talk about video games, I realize why he said that.
I really appreciate that. That means so much.
Yeah, you've been an awesome addition over there, and super excited to have you on, especially given the PS I Love You XOXO crossover that we get to have.
The crossover. Finally, we've had you on the show a while ago now, a few months ago. It's nice to finally be on Beyond. And I also didn't mention this, that Beyond was like my first podcast that I ever like got into and listened to back in the day. And so it's nice for things to finally come full circle and for me to finally be on the show that started it all.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Funké, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, Beyond is like a podcast. When I was like a 360 fanboy back in the day, I listened to Beyond before the PS4 came out, and I was like, I kind of want to go to PS4. And it was like one of those things that like pushed me onto the PlayStation side, because before I was just like Nintendo, Xbox. But yeah, like the PS4 hits, and I'm glad I made the jump. It's a whole world of stuff. It's a whole world of games.
That's a great jumping off point. Why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of like your favorite PlayStation games, obviously maybe more recent stuff on PS4, a little bit of the work that you do. Obviously, you've freelanced for IGN, you've written some great pieces for us, but you also write for many other outlets out there.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a freelance writer. I've done work for GameSpot, Waypoint, Vice, MTV Much. Write a lot about culture, internet, and video games as well. But yeah, okay. Favorite PS4 game. Exclusive, I gotta say Spider-Man. Spider-Man, I was like, wow, this is so fun, and made me realize that one, Spider-Man is awesome to play as, and I missed the Spider-Man 2 on what console was that? Do you guys know?
PS2.
GameCube era? Yeah, PS2.
Yeah. I heard that was like a big game, but I was too young and I missed that one.
Dude,
but
let me tell you, man, one of my favorite games of all time, also Spider-Man.
Seriously?
I love that game. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Chasing all those balloons?
Oh, all the balloons, man. My favorite thing to do in that game was to attach to a helicopter. If you like get close to the Statue of Liberty, to that edge of the island, you can attach yourself to a helicopter, and basically it'll take you all the way to the Statue of Liberty. And like there are like challenges over there on I can't remember the island that's like right next to the Statue of Liberty, but you can hang out there and like climb the Statue of Liberty and do all that stuff. That used to be my favorite thing to do in that game.
Yo, yeah. The Spider-Man PS4 game is also so good at like building the city. Like I was actually amazed at how many landmarks were there, and like taking pictures of them is a big part of that game. And it was fun to like just walk around this fake New York and take pictures and like actually get collectibles and suits for that. It was a fun time. Another one, Transistor, I guess it's not exclusive, but that one I played on PS4. I was like, whoa, I've never played a game like this. Supergiant knows how to do those games. Each one is so interesting, its own thing. And yeah, like I loved it.
Yeah, they're really great at crafting like a world and like an aesthetic that you see across all their games, but they're all so unique and so different from one another. They are one of my favorite studios out there right now.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely love those guys. I do want to ask both of you. It's okay if not. It's okay, but we do have a pretty dedicated VR community in the Beyond group. I was just wondering if either of you guys have any PSVR experience.
Oh my god, PSVR is like incredible, and it's one of those things where it's difficult to sell for what it is, because like I'm pretty sure everybody knows if they like VR or if they're not going to like VR. For me, as somebody who jumped into VR about, I want to say either a year or two ago. I can't remember what year it was at this point. I think it was 2018. Beat Saber, Astrobot. Let me just say those two. Beat Saber and Astrobot are probably two of my favorite games of the generation. Like they're up there and probably like my top 20 PlayStation games of the generation. What's it called? Blood and Truth is also a great VR game that I absolutely adore. And then Trover Saves the Universe. Like those four games right there are like absolute jams.
You just mention all the greatest hits. That's like that's the list. That's the playlist.
Exactly. Like and like you could go deeper, but yeah, like if I was to recommend anybody getting VR to play any games, it would be those four games, and add Tetris Effect in there too. Like there are so many great gems in PSVR that I absolutely adore it. It's great.
Beat Saber looks so fun. Like I see so many videos of people just like whack it and having a good time. Are there like custom levels and stuff? Like, can you play any song? How does that?
Not on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like on other platforms, there's ways to get custom maps that users create. PlayStation doesn't have that, just because it's like more of a closed platform than PC, where you can just do whatever you want.
True.
Yeah, they put out a lot of DLC for it, but yeah, it's definitely a more limited library on PSVR. But that's one of my favorite games for when you're in the VR headset, feeling so cool and badass, and like you are a music ninja, and then you see a video of yourself, and you're just standing there doing this.
Have you ever like streamed yourself playing Beat Saber, or like done a Let's Play?
That sounds
It's the most
scary.
ridiculous thing.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. My skin would leave my body if I saw that footage of me flailing around, because I'm actually quite tall in real life. There's like, no, my eyes would bleed, and that would be the end of me.
I did before I joined Kind of Funny, when I was part of a site called okbeast.com. I did like a Patreon exclusive Let's Play for Beat Saber, and it was one of those things where like when you're in it, you're like, this, I feel so cool, I'm killing it, I probably look so cool, and then watching back the footage, I was like, I look like a dope, I look like an idiot, who let me do this? Like, my hands, it's basically me and my hands are just flailing all over the place. Like, there's nothing that looks cool about Beat Saber, but it is the coolest game to play.
I think it's like watching yourself being filmed doing karaoke. Like, at the time, you're like, I am a golden god, and then you see the footage, and you are just this drunk noodle. Like, it's just there's nothing cool about it.
I feel like once a month I see like a clip of someone doing something in VR. They'll be like walking on a plank or something, and then just like fall or something. Like, just like drop something, the TV drops. It seems so scary to me. Like, my only experience is when I worked at EB Games, shout out Canada, the GameStop for Canada, and they were doing the Resident Evil 7, I think, VR demo, and they're like, watch out, you're in for a scare, like, put this on. And I put it on, and that was terrifying. I have not put it on since. I'm good with waiting until one of my friends gets it. Maybe I'll go over once I can and play it, but I think I'm good on VR. But
I hear you.
That's fair. RE7 is one of the scariest experiences I've had, and VR exactly for that. Yeah.
Yes, it's too much for me. I do love the PlayStation Vita, though. I've been playing a lot of that recently, which is another one.
Nice.
Huh? What's
The Vita in
The
2020?
Vita,
Gotta
that
respect
word
it.
in years.
I haven't heard that name since the Switch came out.
Listen, since I missed a lot of the PlayStation games when I was a kid, I was on Nintendo Xbox. This is like a good vessel for me to play classics like a Jet Set Radio is super fun to play on there. Hotline Miami. I know that one's not an older one, but like that one also in the Last of Us trailer, I was like, whoa!
I was gonna say, you gotta watch out if you're playing Hotline Miami in public, because like
scary.
People don't take kindly to that.
They obviously don't. And also Chrono Trigger. First time playing through that, and that is like on my little screen. It's fantastic. The music is great. It's a great portable console. I will die for the Vita. It's the best.
That's beautiful.
We know at least 5 people who feel the same way, Funké, so you are not alone.
Let's go.
And all of them are actors in The Last of Us Part 2, obviously. But yeah, it's great to hear some Vita love. I haven't played mine in quite a while, but the Part 2 trailer kind of reminded me maybe I should bust that out and play some older PlayStation games.
Pick it up. There are dozens of us out there.
Dozens. But yeah, let's jump into, I think, a little bit of the PlayStation news going on that we can talk about, especially because it lets us make wild predictions that inevitably will be wrong in 6 months. But hey, that's part of the fun of this. So, of course, normally we have been talking last week on the show about how we were going to have a bunch of PlayStation 5 news to talk about this week. We aren't, of course. The PS5 June event that was scheduled for June 4th has been delayed. I'll read PlayStation's official statement. They posted this yesterday as we're recording June 1st. Quote, "We have decided to postpone the PlayStation 5 event scheduled for June 4th. While we understand gamers worldwide are excited to see PS5 games, we do not feel that right now is a time for celebration, and for now we want to stand back and allow more important voices to be heard." The event, of course, had been scheduled for this Thursday, June 4th, and there's no new date for this event. talked on Twitter, obviously, where most of the conversation has been had. I do believe this was the right call by them. This is obviously in response to the recent outbreak of protests, not just in the US, but that have been growing worldwide, and absolutely allowing the voices that need to be heard and should be heard during this time is a lot better use of the social platforms that we have than saying, hey, look at this PS5 game that's coming out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think this is like a pretty good move on Sony's part. This is one of those ones where, as we've been talking about it on Kind of Funny, it's been interesting to see it develop, because we usually do our show Kind of Funny Games Daily at 10 a.m. and it was me and it was the homie Paris from Gamertag Radio, and we were talking about how oh yeah, we're looking forward to that PlayStation 5 event that's going on Thursday. And like somebody wrote in a question to our show asking like, hey, should they delay it, or do you guys think they will delay it? And I didn't think they would delay it. And in fact, I wasn't really of the mind that they should delay it, because it's one of those things where you kind of want things to look forward to, right? Especially when things are as kind of bleak as they kind of are nowadays, between COVID and between protests and all these different things. And so yeah, like when these conversations were first happening, I was kind of like, we'll see, but I don't think they're gonna delay. And to see them legit, like right after we recorded the episode, they put up this post and actually delay it. To see their wording here, right, talking about how we want to stand back and allow more important voices to be heard. I think that is such like a great way to put it as far as what this does. Because I also tweeted about this and I was like, oh yeah, this is ultimately like this is a good move. And somebody replied to one of my tweets, kind of saying that like when you think of protests and what's going on right now with the Black Lives Matter movement and everything going on, one of the things that protests do is it causes people to stop and have to pay attention, right? And nothing more so in the gaming industry, I think, can make people stop and pay attention than PlayStation 5 information getting delayed. Gamers, of course, are like thirsty for this information. We've all been waiting for PlayStation to say something, and things have been so weird this year as far as how they're able to say things and how much they've probably had to shift and maneuver, given all the things that have been going on with GDC being postponed and E3 being canceled and all these different things. That you imagine for them, this is a move where it's like, all right, I guess we got to move again, and they do it, but it also allows them to make this statement of, hey, let's step back and let's let more important voices be heard. And so I think ultimately this is a pretty cool move.
Yeah, I also agree. Like, this is definitely necessary. I was personally so surprised that they would do this, because I've never seen Sony or PlayStation do anything like this in the past. So I don't know. This was one of the events that made me realize how large scale these protests are actually being, and how it's affecting these companies. And a lot of companies have come up with statements, and a lot of them have been disappointing. But I think this is a great choice because, one, there's a lot of video games out there. Play them. Like, if you're mad about this, like being delayed, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there's so many video games for you to play. Mario, Sonic. There's so many.
At the Olympics,
Sonic Forces was free recently on PS Plus.
Yes, get one of those. I've been so lucky not
the
to
best
see...
Sonic game, but it's a Sonic game.
Yeah. I've been so lucky not to see any weenies on my timeline complaining about it, because I feel like this is a statement that would shake up a lot of gamers. I've read in the replies to it by accident. No, don't read the replies to this tweet. It's terrifying. But a couple of those I was like, wow, like people are so like ignorant to what is going on. They just want to see this event. And I love PlayStation. I want to see PS5 games, but I can wait. Like, there's so many games. The turnaround for games and AAA games especially is so fast. Like, we can wait. I think it's fine if we're waiting. It's still going to be there. It's still coming out. I appreciate that there also wasn't a date set for the event as well, because no one knows how long this is going to go on. And I like that they're waiting. I really appreciate that.
I think that's a really good point, and one I haven't actually seen made before. Funké, like, I feel if they'd put a date on it or said, in the next few weeks or something like that, it just feels like they're putting a timeline on something that cannot be planned out. This is unvolving at a very organic rate. And like, to see them kind of go, okay, well, in the next few weeks things will settle down, because of course it will, and nothing will change. I really appreciate that they did that as well, and I hadn't actually thought of that before.
Yeah, they've tended to do they've done a great job actually up to this ramp up to the PS5 of not putting dates on things that they're moving. Like they did it also with The Last of Us Part 2 and Iron Man VR when they delayed both of those, and they were like, yeah, these are delayed indefinitely. Didn't even give a year, right? Which is one of those things where it's like, okay, like are these going to be PS5 titles? Like, what's the deal here? And I think it is. I think there's something to be said about their willingness to be like, all right, like whether or not this is going to still happen next week or the week after or in August, let's just have, I guess I want to say the bravery, but I don't necessarily, I also don't want to say the bravery, but
Yeah.
let's go about it through the lens of we just don't know. And so let's not be afraid to say we don't know and take a step back and allow the conversations that need to happen. And when we're ready to show, we'll show.
Definitely. Yeah, and I don't know if it's corporate, like them being like, we actually just legitimately don't know when these will die down, so we're going to wait, or if it is because they care. I don't know, but it's a good decision. I'm glad that they didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there's a little bit of both there, right? I think there is probably the willingness to be like, all right, yeah, we should say something. And we have a big thing that's happening this week, but like the polite thing to do would be to step back. I'm sure there's also in the marketing division of Sony's people are being like, hey, if we do our event this week, it's gonna get drowned out by so much
yeah,
noise, and it wouldn't make sense to really like show off PS5 games right now because we don't necessarily want those games to be affected by everything else going on in the world. And so if we announce them in 2 or 3 weeks, we'll probably have better results in terms of the reception of everything going on.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely why I
yeah.
don't want to pat them on the back too much, because I mean, like it isn't doing too much. Like you're not doing an event. But yeah, it is a good move by them.
Yeah, it's I think as Lucy already pointed to as well, and as everyone's been saying, yeah, we will see this event eventually. It's one of those things where, as Funke, you were saying, it's okay if it comes in 2 weeks, if it's 2 months from now. Like they are still going to launch this thing allegedly in the holiday season, so
Yeah.
they're going to have to show stuff eventually. It's not that big a deal if it's now or 3 weeks from now, when there are much more important things to let that space be filled with.
hmm
Of course, though, we are going to get some information eventually, so I figured this would be a good time to make wild predictions about either this event or whatever other Sony summer events we might be getting. So I've asked all of you, and thank you all for filling out the run of show with these predictions.
I love that you say wild though, Dorna. I love that you say wild predictions, and we're all like, "Ooh, well, I'm going to analyze this, and fiscally, this makes more sense." And everyone's being really conservative.
This was the hardest thing to ever fill out.
I can make a wild prediction. Hold on, give me 2 minutes.
Blessing will go to you last, so you have time for that wild prediction. So basically, I've asked everyone to come with a price, a launch date, and both an exclusive game announcement and a multi-platform game announcement we think would be part of this PS5 reveal event, or maybe the next one, since we've gotten word that some will come possibly in August. Lucy, I would like to start with you.
Oh, I don't remember what I put down.
I have the doc up. I can read it.
No, okay. Price $499.
Yes.
Just because I think that, like, you know, the PlayStation 3 price was it burned Sony so badly. And, you know, any lower than that makes no sense for the kind of specs that they're talking about. So I think $499 is the most accurate in my brain. It's like the middle ground that sort of feels the most right. I don't see it dropping below that. I could see it going a little higher. So that's my price prediction. My exclusive was Horizon Zero Dawn 2, even though I don't necessarily want that game to be released because blah, blah, blah. We all know that, well, you know, I want the tech to evolve before that game comes out. I bang that drum a lot, but like I can kind of see that as being a big surprise announcement. Yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a launch game, but like as an announcement, I think that will happen. And then third party, I think we are going to be looking at a new Batman game. I have so much hope that we will see a new Batman game. And you know, running on the PlayStation 5, it's kind of too good to be true. And I think we need things to be too good to be true right now because everything else is so bleak. I do just want to see a Batman game running on a PlayStation 5 in the near future. Thank you, please, universe.
And Do you have, because you didn't write it in the doc, but do you have, I'll even just take a week, do you have an estimated launch date you think it's going to be? If you had to guess right now.
Estimated launch date October.
Okay,
Mm.
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll change one of my ones since you also mentioned that third party play. But first, Funke, why don't we go next to you? What are you thinking for price and date?
Well, for price, I did a little higher. I did $5.99 because did you guys see the lights and the triangles they were showing off on those things? I was like, whoa. So I just feel like they might raise the price a bit. It seems like a lot of technology they're putting into this thing. I I I do think that they know because of the previous consoles that their pricing has to be reasonable for most people. But I feel like they might go a little higher right now. Just with the specs they're talking about, it seems like a lot of to put in there. And for date, I put early November. I didn't put an exact date.
It's all
Um,
good.
but yeah, I do think that they'll because most games come out around then, big games, so they'll want it ready. But I guess a bit earlier is smart too, so people get used to it if they have a game that launches with it. Um, so I think October, November, probably. Okay, for game, this one is hard because I think it's definitely going to be a sequel. I think it's going to be like a sequel of one of their big exclusives. I put Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 just because I really want Spider-Man 2. Like I finished that game, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're on the ceiling like that. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, spoilers. Light spoilers. But someone was
You
on a
don't know
ceiling
who
in
they was.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Somebody was on the ceiling.
In Spider, it could have been Spider-Man.
I love
Yeah.
that plot description.
It was Mary Jane.
But yeah, I think both of those, either one of those would be exciting. I think a lot of people would be ready for that. And for should I say the other one, the multi-platform?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
That one, I think probably like a sports game, like maybe NBA 2K21 or something. I heard them talking about that. Porting it, that one was going to be over for PlayStation 5 anyway, so maybe on launch could be a good one. Sports fans like are loyal; they buy those games all the time. I think it's like a secure audience for them to just get.
I think that's a good call. And
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't make that kind of call because it's not like super interesting. You know, here I am talking about a new Batman game, but that actually makes so much sense for people just wanting to pick up one of these things at Christmas, especially people with disposable income.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The-
And I don't know how interesting Sony is going to try to be, like if they're going to try to take chances with this launch and like get a new IP or do something wild. I do think they would go maybe on the safer side and go with a sequel or like a sports game or something as well.
Yeah, my favorite thing usually about like the lead up to next gen 2 is normally when those third party companies that make all the sports games are like, look how realistic the faces are. And
Yes.
I think PS3
Oh, yeah.
faces were the most beautiful thing, and now it's like, nah, no, it's a little better now.
It's real people in there. It's really
20 people running around in your PS5 playing. I will rattle off mine really quickly before we get to blessings. Now, very audacious.
Oh, yeah.
guest I love.
Balls to the wall.
oh my gosh.
I love it. So I'm also saying $4.99. I picked October 23rd. It's a random Friday in October. Mostly because I think they might want to try to go a little early based on whenever other third-party platform games like Valhalla and some of the sports games are going to come out. They may want to be there early for the launch of some of those. My exclusive that I really, really want, as much as I want Insomniac to work on Spider-Man 2, I would love a Ratchet and Clank sequel to the 2016
Oh,
reboot.
man. Yes.
There has been a minute.
I loved that game, and then it just kind of disappeared. I think partially because the film that they released alongside it did not go over well.
I
so
forgot they made that.
they made a movie that had like a 10% Rotten Tomatoes, and
Was it like kind of like Trolls Take the Universe, kind of Universal type like D grade animation property, or was it even worse than that?
I think it was below a Trolls. Like,
Oh my god! How do you make a
Ooh.
bad Ratchet and Clank movie? Is what I want to know. Because
Right?
as a kid, I remember Ratchet and Clank being the game that I played and being like, Pixar should look into this. Like this has potential.
Yeah. And what's funny is it was based off the story of the reboot game, which was a good story and well told in the game, and then the movie was not good.
Oh no!
So I'm hoping they do that, especially since Insomniac is now first party in house. I know they'll be doing Spider-Man 2, so I'm hoping we get both of those. And then third party, I was going to say Batman. I will say now, to keep on the WB front, I just want to see that Harry Potter game. Just say it's real. It's been like 2 years now. Barrett Courtney, Blessing's coworker, kind of funny, used to work at IGN when that game leaked for the first time. So it would be nice to finally get some acknowledgement now.
I've never heard of this Harry Potter game. What is this?
There was like a leaked trailer, I think it was 2018, for a third-person action Harry Potter game that WB has since never confirmed was even real, but a lot of the clues and information we've seen pretty much indicated it was probably a real product.
And I believe it leaked from like focus testing at a mall, which was like the crazy thing about it.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
All leaks are inherently profoundly stupid.
Yeah.
And so it's like a third-person action game. It's set like a couple hundred years before the Hogwarts that like Harry Potter was attending, like an earlier Hogwarts era. And just supposed to be this like totally original Harry Potter tale, and they've just mishandled that franchise so much recently. I just want a good Harry Potter game. But yeah, so those are my predictions. We'll see. I feel good about Ratchet, less so about Harry Potter, but we'll see. Blessing, now that you've had a little time to work out your new predictions, what are you thinking about price and date to kick things off?
So price and date, I'm with Lucy. $4.99 sounds right, and that's also coming off of the reports that we've seen from outlets about how the parts would cost for the PS5 theoretically about like $450. And so either you, as Sony, you probably are making the choice of let's take a loss and sell at 400, or let's make up some of that money and sell at 500. And $50 is probably big for a loss on each console. And so my assumption is they go up rather than down, especially when you look at all the improvements you're seeing with this console. Like you imagine that, like you look at the SSD, you look at the ray tracing, you look at all the things that we know about the console so far hardware wise, and all of it sounds expensive. Like all of it just sounds very expensive in a way where I'm like, oh man, 400 doesn't seem like it's gonna cut affording this thing. And so 500 for that. As far as date, I'm going November 13th. That's like a week, I want to say, before Black Friday, maybe 2. But around that range, right? In that like 2 to 3 week range, I think for sure. One, because that's what they did last time around. Them and Xbox, I believe, did 2 weeks back to back, and that kind of led up to Black Friday. I think that does well. I more so see Xbox being the ones to like take the risk and go like maybe in September or October rather than PlayStation. I think Sony is, for their rollout, I think they want to be more standard than unconventional, because right now PlayStation is in a very good place. They're killing it. And I don't necessarily see the reason for them to like take big leaps in terms of a launch period. And so November 13th, I'm going on based off that was like their what they did for PS4 in 2013. As far as big first party game, I'm going Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I think both Funké and I think Lucy said Horizon Zero Dawn 2. I'm gonna say they're gonna announce it, but the date is gonna be 2021. I don't think you'll get it at launch. What I do think you'll get at launch though, and this is part where my things go off the chain. I think at launch you'll get a prologue to Horizon Zero Dawn 2, because I think Horizon Zero Dawn 2 will be a co-op experience. I think it will be, or it will have a co-op mode and co-op elements to it. And I think a prologue akin to Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes will help usher people into what that experience will be. And so I think at launch you get like maybe like a 3 to 4 hour or maybe like a 6 hour prologue kind of thing for a next year Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
I love it. I love it. And even if that's like not something that is actually going to happen, it should have been something that is actually going to happen, because that is such a clever idea. I don't think we think enough about how shorter experiences that lead into a bigger experience work. Like they Ground Zeroes was such a hook for Phantom Pain for so many people. And Horizon Zero Dawn already carries very positive brand awareness. That makes so much more sense than kicking out a Horizon Zero Dawn 2 out the gate on relatively new tech. I'd love it. I love it. You're a genius.
Yeah. I want to see more experimentation done too with like how you release the game. And like the only thing that was wrong with Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes was that it cost too much. like, if you do that, and as Sony, right, since it's your first party and putting it out on your platform, like if you do it as like either a free thing or as like, let's say, a $30 thing, especially if you're getting, let's say, 5 hours out of it, like that's a pretty good investment as far as like a Horizon Zero Dawn game or a spin-off title. And so I'm predicting it. I don't, if it is it actually going to happen, I don't know. But that's my prediction. And then as far as third party, um, the doc says that the document that we have to organize the show says multiplat. In my head, I read that as third party, to which I said Housemarque's game, even though I think Housemarque's game will be exclusive to PlayStation, but there would be a third party studio. And so I have that as a prediction, but as my balls to the wall prediction for multiplat game, a Halo Infinite crossover with Knack. That's right, they're back. Halo as a franchise has had some issues with the last iteration. I think maybe the last couple iterations. I don't know. I haven't played Halo. But then you also look at Knack. Knack has been a game that Sony has been trying to push. Mark Cerny has had that as his baby. He wants that thing to succeed. You could just put out Knack 3, but what's Knack 3 without a bigger hook to it? That's right. That's why Sony and Microsoft, they shake hands like Predator, like when you get a win in Predator Hunting Grounds, when you get that handshake. They're doing that thing. It's Phil Spencer. It's I don't know, Jim Ryan, I guess,
or Herman maybe.
Yeah, Herman Holst. Yeah, they're shaking hands, and yeah, Halo Infinite is crossing over with Knack. Boom.
I'm imagining you pitching this in some kind of like low rent, like D grade Shark Tank episode, in like someone's basement. And like you've got these like these really weird judges going, "Great idea, Blessing, we love it."
Well, it sounds like money. No, this is my version of when
some money in the bank.
This is my version of when Jeff Keighley got Reggie Fils-Aimé, Phil Spencer, and Sean Layden on stage together at Game Awards. This is that for me. This is my contribution to the industry. I'm making it happen.
This is your version. I love it. Putting that out in the universe. If that happens, we immediately need to bring you on to the live show after, whenever we
please
have that event, so we can
if that
break
happens,
down.
I don't know what I'll do. Like I might just like scream, because I have no authority on this, obviously. But
that would single-handedly end the console wars. It's done.
It would.
It's all over. Yeah.
If that happens, I'm predicting everything I want.
Yeah. That would be a hell of a show. We'll see what happens whenever that.
Too.
We'll see what gets announced, and obviously we'll be covering all that on the show whenever that event happens. I do want to move on, though, to what we have been playing, games we can actually talk about. I do want to quickly mention, though, if you haven't already seen it, The Last of Us Part 2 preview embargo is up. Simon Carty from our IGN UK team wrote a really, really great spoiler-free preview. Nothing about the story in there that hasn't already been in a trailer or anything. It's pretty much just focused on the combat and the changes they've made. Go read in his impressions. I pretty much agree 100% with what he said there. It's a really well-written and well-cut video piece and written piece, so go check that stuff out. But for everyone else, I want to know what you've all been playing. Funké, let's start with you.
I've been playing a lot, like being inside. It's gamer time, definitely. I was playing Valorant a little bit, and then the game went down for a while. It's back up today. That game's pretty fun. PC, sorry, it's not PS4. I've been also playing BioShock: The Collection. I was telling you guys this a little earlier, but good game. Good. It's a nice game. I'm doing some work on it right now, a piece that has to do with it, and yeah, just playing through that whole world is wild. Like, I played through it I didn't play through it. My friend played through it, and I watched him because it was too scary when I was a kid. And playing through it now is just like, whoa, this video game was very influential. I see a lot of what it did for the industry and a lot of things that games took from it, specifically like audio logs and stuff. Like, the way they did the audio diary system is fantastic in that game. I think it's mimicked a lot throughout the industry, but nothing's gonna hit like the ones that do in Rapture. Those ones really are just, they're made well.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, Funké, like, do you sort of, having played it for the first time, watching your friend play it aside, do you feel like it still stands up as a kind of revolutionary game, considering it has been aped so much? Certainly that kind of aesthetic we've seen a lot mimicked. Like, playing it now, are you like, wow, this is incredible, like, or is it more like, this is okay? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's more like, this is okay, because I was playing it, And there's so many bugs in that game. People don't talk about the bugs. Like I load it up, it crashes every 2 seconds. I go to save and it crashes every 2 seconds. I had a power outage last night and it crashed as well. That wasn't the game's fault, but I'm still upset. Um, and a lot of the time, some of the enemies late game they get invincible, and I feel like a lot of the fun in the game is using the what's it, the what is the name of those things? The plasmids.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Interacting with the environments and like seeing how you can use those with the enemies. But some enemies get to a point where they're just so strong that you can't even play with the environment anymore. You have to like use an RPG to kill them. And it's like that is the combat. That's the part of the game that I enjoyed. And I was watching or I was listening to the video diaries. And people were like really commending the combat. And I don't think it's that good. I genuinely don't. Like the gunplay is not that fun. And I think the interesting stuff is with the crossbow. It's with the plasmids. It's how you use like bees in your hands to take someone down. Like that. That is the cool part of that game. Um, and in terms of things that I feel like were echoed in the industry, it's got to be audio logs and also that aesthetic. Like you see that in a lot of games. Like you see something now, and people are like, like BioShock. It's like one of those ones. And I
Well,
think
for a while there, it was like a marketing term, right? Like BioShock-esque.
yeah,
People
yeah.
loved that. They just adored that. Just and then Dark Souls took that mantle and it's still running with it, I believe.
Yeah, crafting its own thing. And I think one last thing about it is that the what's it called? The actual plot goes well, and I think it's a nice story. I think it gets a little too heavy-handed when it's talking about like capitalism and all that. Like, I don't know if it's Rapture, you're living in Rapture, even the titles. But I think the thing that succeeds is the environments. Like walking around there is like, whoa, like looking up at the signs, looking up at how people were living here, like the actual things that people were building. Like when I went to the theater, I was more interested in looking around at the seats and like all the like plasmids and stuff on the ground. And like there was a dead cat. It was so sad. I was like, why do you have this here? Instead of what the person was saying on stage at the theater. So yeah, I think it's really good in its environments, and the world of Rapture is nice. I think that's
I,
what I think.
yeah, and I think a lot of people have subsequently echoed that. Still amazing games. By many accounts, but also a lot of people have said subsequently it would have been really cool to just not have fought anything in those games and just
Yes.
experience and just like wandered through the environments and like have the story kind of unfold around you. And I definitely think that there is an argument for that. The combat definitely, I love the plasmids as well, but you're right, it's not really remembered for that at all in terms of the gunplay.
No, like Andrew Ryan would say something, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And then it's like kill 50 of this weird dude, and I'm like, okay, I will do that to move on in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I played that game when it came out, and so it's fascinating to hear someone who didn't get to play it then, but is kind of jumping into it now, and how that world does and doesn't stand up these days.
Yeah.
Blessing, what about you? What have you been playing?
I've been replaying The Last of Us. This is my third playthrough now. I've been playing it to get ready for The Last of Us Part 2, get geared up for that. And going back to it has been a fun experience. Like, I haven't played it since it came out for PS4, the remaster. And so, yeah, when that first came out, I played it there. And then, yeah, like now that I'm going back to it, as far as the campaign, it's been interesting to see the ways in which it's aged, but I've not necessarily expected it to age. Because like the game still looks beautiful, the game still holds up. But it's things like how the game kind of directs you to go certain directions where I'm like, huh, like I found myself getting stuck more and more in this game than I have recently, because like I I guess since 2013, the ways in which games direct you has progressed. Like there are points where I'm playing The Last of Us and I'm like, all right, I'm in a big open field. Where am I supposed to go? Because there's no paths and there's no doors. And then like I run around for a good minute and a half, and then I'm like, oh, it's this corner over here. That's the thing that I'm supposed to like sneak into.
I hear
And
that.
the ways in which the game doesn't tell you that quite a bit while you're playing, like, has been interesting to see. But overall, like aside from small things like that, in terms of how it's aged a bit, it still holds up, right? It's still fun. I still really like the gameplay. The story is still awesome. It's been nice, like re-getting to know Joel and Ellie and re-experiencing their story. And it's also one of those things where I this playthrough more so than previous ones, I'm noticing some of like the zombie tropes, like the post-apocalyptic tropes that are there that I would not that I didn't catch my first time playing through, and not like bad things, right? I think all the tropes that are present in Last of Us, or at least like most of them, I think like work for what it is, especially as a video game that is tackling the type of story it wants to tackle, right? Like The Last of Us is a game that is uh about like this dark, depressing world and this man building a relationship with this kid to try and like, refill the loss that was his daughter back in the day, right? Like it's personal stuff and it's deep stuff and most of it is tackled like extremely well. But yeah, like you then look at things where you're like, okay, yeah, like this is definitely a thing that's done in every zombie story as far as like the humans being the real enemy and different things like that. Overall, like still great, still amazing. But it's been a fun journey to look at it through a modern lens. And that said, like I cannot wait for Last of Us Part 2 the more and more I play this one because I'm like, yo, how are they gonna up this? Right? Like there are the obvious ways ways that they're gonna up it, right? Through like better graphics and better game design and better optimization and all these things. But I wonder like in the way that The Last of Us was the swan song to the PS3 and this game that really put a stamp on what that console was and that really in my opinion in a lot of ways pushed things forward. I wonder what Last of Us Part 2 is going to do in those similar ways. Can't wait.
Jonathan,
And
blink
can't
twice.
say.
Blink twice.
Nothing.
Blink twice.
Nothing.
If
My eyes are open for the
it
rest
is
of
a
the video.
masterpiece. Blink once if it's terrible.
Anyway, Lucy,
Cool.
what have you been playing, Lucy?
Listen, I was going to mention very quickly Treachery and Beatdown City. Now, Funké, you reviewed that for GameSpot, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic game. How are you liking it?
It's really fun. I just picked it up today. Now it's not on PlayStation, so I won't go on about it too much. But I did just want to highlight the fact that it's on Switch and PC. It's a very cool beat 'em up with like RPG elements and like puzzle elements and stuff like that. It's got an amazingly wicked sense of humor, which I love, like a very visual sense of humor, and it's just the game plays with the text on screen a lot in extremely funny ways.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It feels very anarchic and just the kind of thing that like I want to be playing right now. And like I just
Yeah.
wanted to quickly hear your thoughts on it before we move on.
Yeah, you can punch cops in that game. Pick it up. It's fantastic. It's really great. The gameplay is one part that really just hits it out of the park. I really enjoyed the mesh of tactics and also beat 'em up. You don't see anything like that. Like it's really something new. And if you like either of those genres, like definitely pick this up. I think another thing that Lucy you spoke about, but like the humor in that, it excels so well at making jokes. And when it makes jokes at another's expense, it's always punching up. It's never just like ragging on people. It's like it's poking fun at privileged people. It's poking fun at gentrifiers, cops, all of those people. And I think it's a game that is perfect to play right now if you're if you're in the mood for something like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
out on Switch and PC.
Out on Switch and PC. And after that, I'm going to go on a brief 24-hour gaming cleanse, and I'm going to emerge like Mr. Burns when he's had all those like injections put in him, and he's got the big eyes and like just this Zen character. And I'm going to play Last of Us Part 2. That's how I'm going to
Oof.
go in
Oh my
because
gosh.
it's coming up so soon. The release date is out so soon. It's extremely exciting.
I actually can't believe that. It is so close.
Yeah, we're just a couple weeks away from that. It's kind of crazy, but I can't say anything about whether or not it's good, so you'll have to wait for that later.
He's
But
blinking. Look, he's blinking.
oh God! No. Anyway, where do I look? We're going to be wrapping up the show now. Thank you to everyone who's been watching and/or listening. As the train goes by my window, that's always a good sign. Thank you, Lucy, for joining us as always this week. And thank you very much, Blessing and Funké, for joining us. It's awesome to have you both on, and hope we'll have you both on again very soon.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
For sure. I appreciate it.
Before we wrap up, any work, anything you guys have recently done, or any shows, anything you want to plug as we're wrapping up for the audience to go check out?
I'm DJing a Minecraft music festival. I never thought I would say those words, but it's gonna be a
Nice.
blast. Yeah, it's on June 6th, Saturday at 6 p.m. It's called String Formal. You can check it out. Open Pit. It's put on by them. It's gonna be a really fun time, and all of the funds are being donated to the National Bail Fund. So yeah, come through, support, listen to some gamer music. It's gonna be a blast.
And can you tweet that link out, Funké, on your Twitter that we'll go through so people can actually click on that link?
Yes, of course.
Awesome.
At Funké McFly.
Okay,
awesome. And Blessing,
you can follow me on Twitter at Blessing Junior, where I mainly tweet nonsense. But if nonsense is your thing, boom, there you go. But I'm also on Kind of Funny, youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games, because I'm on the game side of things. Kind of Funny Games Cast, Kind of Funny Games Daily, and PS Love You XOXO, which is our PlayStation podcast. And so if you want to hear more from me, those are the places you can find me.
Awesome. And also, we'll have to rejoin as the year goes on, but I was over on Kind of Funny earlier this year for our Fantasy Critics Game League that is ongoing. And I must say, I love your list as it stands.
Oh, thank you.
Coming up. It's a very solid overall pick.
Let me tell you, right now, me, you, and Greg are the only ones that I think are aware that fantasy draft is still happening, because we also had Callie from GameSpot and Gio Corsi, of not Psionics,
Ilphonic.
The Predator. Ilphonic, yeah, the Predator Hunting Ground Studio. Also, I think I said the F word. I forget if I can curse on the show or not. I apologize. But yeah, like they're a part of the draft, and it's a really cool thing. Also, shout out to Fantasy Critic. Basically, it's a fantasy draft with video games. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But yeah, right now, me, you, and Greg are like the ones that are in it.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see who's gonna come out alive.
I'm excited.
Oh my
especially
gosh,
as we start to get game reveals. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But that's gonna, I think, pretty much wrap us up. Thank you to everyone so much who has been listening and watching at home. Thank you to Lucy, to Blessing, and to Funké for being on the show this week. Had such a blast. Thank you to Red, our producer, as always, for listening and helping us to craft together this nonsensical show. And again, thank you to everyone in the audience who's been watching or listening. We hope you're safe. We hope you're well. Thank you so much. And as always, beyond.
Beyond.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool to say beyond.